So until we get started, Bill, I have to know, what's your average number of inspections a week right now? Like, I'm just totally curious.
Well, with the December kind of, the December and January kind of slowdown right now, I'm probably doing about 11 a week right now. And then as things start to get pick back up and stuff like that, then I'll go to about, maybe 17 or 18.
Okay. Golly.
But right now it's just a dog eat dog world, because it's I'm just seeing what's going on, and we've got poor buyers coming in, and they're having to put $25,000-$30,000 extra towards their home. It's a madhouse, and it just seems like maybe because it's a lack of inventory, or I don't know, but I know there's a lot of people that want to sell, but they have nowhere to go. So maybe that's. But it's kind of weird what's going on. So, but it's still, I have agents coming and says, yeah, we're in multi-offer situations. There's 20 people bidding on this house. And so, yeah, it's just, I hear that all the time.
Wow.
Bill, with the 17 inspections a week, when it does ramp up, what's the turnaround time for the final inspection report to come back?
My goal is always within 12 hours. Now, the person that has the 8:30 slot typically will get their report right around to the 8:30 to 9 o'clock ish, and then everybody else is right before midnight. But I do get the reports out the same day, regardless. Your email might go off at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, but they're all done. And like I said, usually if I do three a day is my maximum. It's usually that first one that'll go over the 12 hours just a little bit, and then I have no problem the second and third getting you your report within 12 hours.
Okay, that's good to know.
Mm-hmm. And if I know ahead of time, like say for instance, you're in a situation with a 3-day option or something like that, and you're needing that report ASAP, if you can let me know prior to the inspections that that's what the case is, I'll make a modification to my schedule for the next one to kind of bump that one up a little bit later, and I can just go ahead and do the report on my phone. It takes me a little bit longer while I'm on site doing the actual report, but I can, if I know it ahead of time, I can produce a report for you immediately after the inspection.
Okay, and are those requests online, or do we call you directly?
No, you just call me and just say, hey, Bill, I'm under a 3-day option. I need that report ASAP. So the sooner I know about that, the better. And then, like I said, I could kind of make modifications to get that report to you, shortly after I'm actually completed with the inspection. I can, just kind of go to my truck, make the modifications to my computer, and then get you that report out immediately.
Awesome. Okay.
Bill, this is Anne Marie.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. How are you?
Oh, hanging in there. Busy day.
All right.
Quick question for you. I think I heard Victoria ask about the turnaround, but as far as getting you actually booked for the inspection, do you prefer to have us directly contact you or go online?
We could do, there's multi ways to do this. If you're needing like a specific spot or something like that, it's usually better to go ahead and text me or call me. Texting is the better way, because, sometimes I'm in an attic or in a roof or something like that, and I can't respond right away.
Right.
So that's the preferred method. But I also have a call center, a 1-800 number that you can call, and you can book that way. And then we also have to where you can book online. I can send you the link to the if you want to send me a text. Right. I'll send you the link to you'll be able to go online and check my schedule, and you can actually book it if you want to do that as well.
Perfect.
And when we post this in the hub, Anne Marie, I will have his contact information in there as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question.
Yes, no, I will make sure.
Thank you.
Because there were a lot of agents interested in coming today, but people, are still trying to juggle kids and other jobs. So I want to make sure that when we post this in the hub later, people can
Plus,
find you, Bill. He
plus
will have them find
this was a
you.
good weekend for showing. So the sun was out. So yeah, everybody is
Yeah.
out, last week it was terrible with Christmas and all that other stuff. So we're ready
Yeah.
to make money
Well,
now.
and the kids are back in school. I'm so
Yep.
relieved that my daughter's back in school.
Mhm.
Yes. Yes.
So
Amen to
I
that.
can't get mine in school.
Yeah. If you want me to text you that link, my phone number is 512-745-3871. Just send me a text message with URL, and then I'll send you the link.
Okay, can you repeat that? I'm sorry, I wasn't ready.
512-745-3871.
Thank you.
And you can,
Right.
and the good thing about that is that you can check everybody's schedule as well. So let's say, for instance, I'm full or whatever that day, you can actually check the availability of all of my inspectors here in Austin. We got 9 guys on our team. So we should be able to get to you easily.
Bill, I'm going to turn my camera off.
Okay.
Victoria and Marie, if you guys have questions, feel free to just unmute yourself. There's not a way to raise your hand. There's also chat. I'll be looking at the chat. I just don't want to distract from Bill's presentation.
Or just unmute, and it
Unmute,
looks like
okay.
we have a pretty small class here, so we can all kind of have an open discussion. I don't think that's going to be an issue as far as that goes. Can everybody see my screen? I want to let everybody know this is my first Zoom class that I'm actually conducting as an instructor. I'm usually on the other side. Okay, so kind of bear with me here a little bit, okay? Because I'm this is a learning experience for me. So but can everybody see my
Yes,
screen?
I can see your
Okay.
screen.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're going to do great, Bill.
All righty. So you want to get started?
Yes, please take it away.
Okay. All right. So we're obviously what I try to do here as an inspector, I hear a lot of stories whenever I go out and I conduct inspections, and my agents coming up to me and says, yeah, my home inspector, he said something wrong, or he said this to my client, tweaked him off, it killed the deal, it didn't need to be killed. So I start taking all of these notes whenever I hear agents telling me that on what us inspectors can do to try to prevent verbiage or anything like that from actually killing a deal. So I've kind of put this class together and stuff like that from stories that I've heard, nightmare stories. If you guys have any nightmare stories that you want to share with me, hey, let's discuss them and stuff like that, because I'm always looking for more information to put into this to kind of make the transaction a lot easier. I've always told my agents, we need you just like you need us. And it's in my better interest to try to make this sale go through. Obviously I still got a job to do with clients and buyers by, representing them and basically describing everything that has to do with that home. But we have to be able to talk to them, and we have to be able to present, hey, a little bit of lack of insulation over here on the left rear side of the home, without saying, hey, the insulation is bad. And there's ways to talk about things, and that's where I'm going to come up with things like this on what we can do as inspectors, and what you guys can look at, because I'm not going to say, hey, use me specifically, even though I want that. But you guys might have your inspector that's your favorite one, and I'm not going to be the one that goes in there and says, hey, change it, start using me, and that's it. I want you to know and have the tools to where, if you do have your favorite inspector, is he doing an adequate job for you? Is he doing what he should? Is there any critiquing that you can do to try to help the transaction? Because like I said, we have to help one another out to make these deals kind of go through there. And if my agents are making their deals and the client and their clients are happy, then hey, this is a win-win situation for everybody. Okay. This class is usually also a 1 hour CE credit, but they on this one here, since this is the first one, we're not going to do the CE credits. But if we ever have another one, I'm going to kind of get with the office here and see if whenever we have these training classes, that if I can give you some CE credits, so that way we're not just, today you're going to get educated, but it's not for CE credit. But we may be able to get this set up here futuristically to actually give you some CE credits when you sit in on one of these. So let's see here. Obviously this isn't CE, so I'm not going to worry about cell phones and all that other stuff. If it was CE, then we would have to do that and sign in and all that stuff. So, all right. So basically the objectives is it's all about emotions. Okay. You know, whenever we when you bring your buyer in, you kind of know already their personality, you know, whether they're warriors, whether they're kind of a dominant type of personality that, you know, some of the little things that just kind of goes in one ear and out the other. But then there's some people that when you describe, you know, something small, it's a big thing. So that's kind of what we have to look for. And I always appreciate my agents, you know, calling me in advance and saying, hey, look, we do have a worry wart on our hand. We do have a guy that, nah, this is a seasoned buyer, you know, you don't really have to worry about it. Because I handle each client a different way. And of course, if I don't get that from you, then it's in the beginning, it's just kind of a, you know, a little bit of a sparring match with the client and me, because I'm just kind of looking at them and figuring out who they are and what they like and stuff like that and how to deal with them. And then I adjust my my way of talking to them, you know, because like I said, not everybody needs, you can't talk to everybody the same way. Everybody has to be talked to a little bit different. But really what it comes down to is emotions. Though we have to watch those emotion spikes, because if we're hitting that client with bad news, we have to throw in some good news in there as well to keep them kind of, you know, to keep that emotional spike, you know, you get, this is the way it goes kind of during the inspection, and you want to keep them way up here rather than bring them down. If you do bring them down, you got to get them back up here and start talking some good stuff about the house. Also, preparing the house for the inspection. If you happen to be on the listing side, you know, nothing is worse than having an inspector go in there and having to, you know, getting the call saying, hey, look, attic access is blocked. The electrical panels are locked. Or something like that. You know, all of those things kind of have to be prepared, so that way the inspector doesn't go in there and your client doesn't get a report with could not inspect because, you know, whatever gas was off or panels were locked or inaccessible. Okay, preparing your buyers. You know, your buyers, you know, I run into this quite often. I'll have a first-time buyer buying a 60-year-old home with a ton of stuff in it, and they're not prepared for what I'm about ready to, you know, lay down on them. You know, we probably have a 60-line deficiency list for a first-time buyer. You know, will that potentially scare them? Heck yeah, it will. So, you know, maybe some advanced warnings saying, hey, look, with this house, you know, the inspector's going to find some stuff, you know, so let's be prepared for it. So that way, whenever they do get the news and stuff like that, you know, they're semi-prepared. They're not going to be too skittish there. Dealing with the report, you know, some of the reports out there can be very intimidating. Some of them can be very hard to read. I try to make my reports pretty much clear as day, you know, give good pictures, you know, good verbiage, describe the deficiency and describe what can happen by not fixing the deficiency. Okay. So, you know, we have to, you know, make sure that clients know that, hey, if we're talking maintenance, this is all it is. It's part of home ownership versus a deficiency, you know, to where a water heater is leaking or the HVAC unit is not performing right. You know, those are the things that we want to gravitate to. But if we call out because, you know, there's caulking on the window, that's, you know, that's not a reason to terminate a contract. So we just want to make sure that, you know, that they have a fully understanding of the report. Another thing too, with the dealing of the report, when all possible, if you do have a client that is a worrisome type of a person to where whatever you tell them, they're going to, you know, this is going to be a major deal and they're going to go off the edge. It's better that they're there at the inspection. When they're not there at the inspection and we give them a long report like this, it's going to freak them out, and it's going to be hard to deal with them after. So I've always said, try to at least, if you can attend the inspection, you know, to kind of hear what's going on, at least have them there. So that way, you know, I can kind of work with them a little bit and monitor that emotional spike that they're having and stuff like that. And cap off some excessive emotion that doesn't really need to be spent on, you know, maybe a lack of insulation in the corner, you know, or some of the smaller things that come up in the report to kind of downplay some of that stuff. You know, it's still important, but no reason to terminate you know, a contract for some of the stuff that we call out. the criteria for selecting the right inspector and the company. As I was telling you earlier, all of inspectors are different. You know, we all have different quirks or whatever. Some of us don't know how to talk to people, you know, and they can ruin the deal by describing faulty insulation. So that's very important. If you see that's going on, of course, that's a one-time happening, and then you have to go to the number 2 guy on your list there, because you know, if it doesn't happen right on that first time and that inspector blows it, there's not a second time. They're usually that client is usually going to side with the inspector whether he's right or wrong. You know, they heard something that wasn't right about the house, and they're out. So it's very, very important to know and have confidence in whoever you're utilizing as an inspector or the company. And of course, you know, just kind of keeping it all positive, celebrate. You know, it's a good thing. You know, trying to go under contract nowadays, man, that's a party that in the making, because trying to get under contract now is tough. So I always greet my clients whenever they come in here, you know, with a very, very positive attitude, and say, "Hey, you got one, right on. Let's get through this. You know, let's see what this house is, and you know, and make it work." So that's always usually how I want to set the stage every time I meet these clients. Okay. So we're going to talk about the selling side of it here a little bit, about, you know, kind of if you're on the listing side. You know, the stress, both it's high on both sides, you know, for the seller and also for the buyer. You know, they're excited, you know, about getting the contract, but of course, you know, they got to pack, they got kids to get into new schools. So the reality of once, you know, maybe once that they hear that they're under contract, it hasn't settled in yet until you know, until maybe the day of inspection, and then they realize, hey, we're going to have to move. And so, you know, there's a lot of emotions that kind of go on there. And even with the sellers being, with their emotions being high, sometimes that can actually trickle into the buyers, you know, and if they've got high emotions, and now we're dissatisfying the buyers because of what's going on and stuff like that. So that's why we have to kind of, you know, watch that seller as well, because they can affect the deal as far as that goes. Okay. And then here comes the dreaded home inspector coming in, and he's going to ruin it all. You know, he's going to find that, he's going to find this, he's going to find that. What are we going to do? So, you know, again, here we go with that emotional spike. And then, of course, you know, a lot of times it's funny, these, sellers, they'll, of course, you know, they're worried about the inspector coming in. However, it's funny, you know, maybe they don't, you know, they're nervous about it, but once they're under contract on their house, I don't know how many times I get called by that seller that was upset because I went in there and caught some of the stuff on their house. Now they're wanting me to go in there and do the same thing I did to their house for them. So, you know, they just need to have a clear understanding that, hey, you know, we're here to do a job, and we're not trying to make, you know, things difficult on anybody or anything like that. You know, as long as they kind of understand that, I think that everything's going to be good. What stresses the buyers?
Hey, Bill, this is Victoria, real quick.
Yes.
So just real quick. So as far as the stress on the sellers, is there something that you would highly recommend them doing prior to putting their home on the market to relieve some of the stress?
Yeah, making sure that, of course, you know, because what's going to happen, what's going to add to the stress is, let's say, for instance, I get to the home and the attic access is blocked. Okay, and what's going on here? You know, everybody, they're trying to clear out their house. So what happens? Everything goes into the garage, right? And then they block some of those panels. So now here comes the inspector, and then I'm calling my agent saying, hey, I can't get to the electrical panels. I can't get to the attic. Now we got to call the seller up and say, hey, we need access to that stuff. And you know, then that causes some stress there. And especially if you're under a fast option, 3-day option or something like that. And I'm calling you up saying, hey, I can't move, you know, I can't even get into this garage because everything's blocked. If we knew about that in advance, you know, knowing that the inspector is going to have some issues, we can deal with that in advance before I get there and it becomes a problem.
What about from an inspector standpoint, like as far as minor repairs, like if it's noticeable, like paint, or I mean not paint, but you know, like fixing an an outlet or, you know, something small like that, that you know is probably going to come up in the inspection report. I mean, I know little items like that. I've had clients get stressed over that because it's an older home.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you recommend?
Well, if we know that we're going into a 50-year-old home, okay, we already need to start preparing our buyers saying, hey, okay, I mean, you could kind of get, when you walk into a home, you could kind of tell if it's been redone from the inside out or from the outside in. You know, that saying of lipstick on a pig. You know, as an agent, you've seen many reports from, well, I think I think you guys have, I mean, unless you guys are brand new and stuff like that, but for the most part, you've probably seen an inspection report before. So you kind of know what we look at. So when you go into these homes and you're showing them and you see that there's an issue in the garage, or you see that maybe there's an outlet that doesn't work or it's broken, just say, yeah, that looks like the inspector, he's going to be pointing that out. You know, this is an older home. So, you know, yeah, we could probably expect maybe about 40 things, you know, going on. You're already setting the stage up that the inspector is going to catch some things, and that's to be expected. What is more scary? What I always tell everybody, what's more scary, going into a 50-year-old home and having the home inspector tell you that it's perfect and there's nothing wrong with it, or having the inspector, you know, lay down maybe 20, 25 things of findings that are there? You know, what's worse? I don't think that buyer is going to be very comfortable knowing that a 50-year-old home has nothing wrong with it, you know. So, and especially if it's been redone. So usually if you set the stage already going in, that the inspector is going to find some stuff. We're going to get a list. That helps.
Thank you.
Okay. And any other questions? We're good so far? Okay. And of course, buyers, they're skeptical. Are we getting a good deal? I don't know how many times I'm asked that question. Hey, are we getting a good deal on this house? I'm like, I don't answer those questions. I tried to avoid that. Don't get me. I'm going to tell you about the house, and the house, that's it. I don't do the research analysis, or that's your agent. So usually whenever they come to me on that, there are some specific items that I don't tread. I just don't go there. I throw them back at you, because if an inspector is trying to tell your client as to whether or not they're getting a good deal on the house or not, that, you know, that's usually a bad thing. So, okay, is the house going to fall apart? Are there hidden secrets? You know, we really love the house, but are afraid the inspection will turn up too many things. Okay, so what freaks them out? Safety items. So we have to spend a little bit of time on safety. You know, and you know, let's say for instance, I go into the house and I see lack of smoke detectors. Okay. So, I mean, is that a reason to terminate a contract because there's no smoke detectors? No, you know. So, you know, again, that's where we come in here and make that description to the client there as to the lack of detectors, code, you know, whatnot, and how we describe it. But, you know, definitely don't want to kill the deal as far as that goes. Maintenance items. Too many items to fix. What's going on? Who's going to pay for all this stuff? Maintenance is always kind of a little kind of touchy-feely, because your buyers want the sellers to pay for maintenance. So I usually try to set the stage whenever it comes down to maintenance that, hey, that just comes with home ownership. When you buy a car, you have to rotate the tires, you have to change the oil, you have to change the transmission fluid. There's maintenance that goes in it. Even if you're buying a brand new car, this kind of stuff still happens. Well, when you're buying a home, you know, you got to caulk the windows. You know, you've got to watch for wood rot. You got to paint the walls whenever the walls are starting to go. So that just kind of comes with it. So even though I do pull, I do look for maintenance items, I try not to dwell on that too much as far as the report goes. I throw them into the report, but I don't emphasize, you know, the importance level. You know, on my reporting, I've got a red action item, which is the most important, and I got a blue item, which is a semi-important, and then there's things that I just kind of throw into the report. Maintenance is one of those things that I just kind of throw into the report as a courtesy. And I try to make sure that they know that, you know, hey, this is just, I'm being courteous here to let you know on things that, you know, you need to do now that you're going to own a home.
Bill?
Uh-huh.
Anne Marie again. So would you consider maintenance items good to have rather than need to have?
I would say yeah. You know, maintenance is, the way I describe maintenance is I don't really say that it needs to have. I always say it should be done, or it's
Right.
recommended to be done, because you don't have to do home maintenance. Not everybody goes out annually and recocks their windows outside. But a lot of times it's either they might not know either. Maybe they want to go outside and caulk their windows, but they don't know that it needs to be done. So usually when we kind of point out those little things there, we do have a little bit of a conversation about it, but it's more of a, an educational type of thing as far as the advantages of doing it versus the disadvantages of not doing it. Again, we're trying to be positive, okay? And we're trying to, we want to talk about maintenance. It's an important aspect of the transaction, especially if they're first time buyers. But this is a very easy territory for an inspector to trip up if he's not good at talking to clients and mess things up for the deal there by talking this. So usually if you've got a green inspector, or maybe they're just kind of coming online, maintenance is something they probably don't want to go there yet, because you don't want to freak them out. You don't want to terminate a deal because of maintenance. Okay, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Of course, are there termites? Is there mold, lead, paint? We don't really test for radon here. There's not a issue. Asbestos is kind of starting to kind of go away. We're seeing less and less as far as asbestos goes. Lead paint, I haven't seen lead paint in a long time. Mold is always a situation to where that one's funny, because you have to be licensed in order to determine if it's mold. So if you've got an inspector calling out a home with mold, that's wrong. Unless he has a license stating that he's a mold inspector, then he can. But if not, it's biogrowth. Okay. But yeah, now of course I talk about how to not kill the deal. Mold is something that if a home has mold, there's not much I can do there. That one there could kill it, regardless of what I say about it or whatnot. So there's things that we can prevent, and then there's things that we really can't. Okay. Any leaks in the plumbing, of course, all of these things here, the inspector checks for. And usually also too, a good kind of comeback on clients whenever they're worried about all this stuff is that this is why we're inspecting in the first place. We want to, yeah, you can worry about the plumbing leaking, but it's going to be worse if we don't catch it and you catch it after the fact that you move in. So what's worse, catching it now or catching it after? So we want to make sure that the sewer's not going to back up, and we want to make sure that the plumbing's not leaking and stuff like that, because then there's not going to be a need for an inspector. Okay. Then the seller insulted me, and I'm not going to get back at them. I'm not going to buy the house. I always try to say, nah, that's the wrong thing, because look what you did to try to get under contract. You fought for this house. So we're going to do everything we can to try to keep it. So here we go. Sellers, good way to, make sure that there's no re-inspections. You're on the listing side. Attic entries, make sure all of those items are removed, obstructing openings. We understand that, hey, yes, they're cleaning up the house. Not everybody can afford a storage. Some of those items are going to go into the garage, if not a lot of them are. But clear, just make a trail, a path to the electrical panels, and don't block the water heater, don't block the attic access and stuff like that, and we'll have a good inspection. GFCIs, if you go into the garage and you see a lot of boxes against the wall, well, guess what will happen here as an inspector? We go out there and we pop the GFC outlets in the exterior, but if they're in the garage buried behind boxes, we can't get to it to reset. So, there's another one that, hey, I'm sorry, we couldn't check your GFCIs because didn't have access to the reset. Okay. Remove excessive clutter under the sinks that can obstruct access to plumbing. If you can have, like I said, once again, if you're on the listing side, if if the sinks underneath there are full of stuff, inspector is usually not going to go in there and remove it. If you can ask them, hey, can you kind of just push that stuff off to the side so the inspector can kind of view in there? That's also good too. That helps your client out, and it helps, helps us. Any burnt out light bulbs? Okay, because on the inspector's report, we call out burnout light bulbs, but we don't know if the fixture doesn't work. We don't know if the switch is bad, and we don't know if it's just a light bulb. So again, if we know that those light bulbs, all of them are working, that's one issue that of the emotional spike that we're trying to control. It doesn't go up because we told them, hey, replace all the burnout light bulbs, so that way the inspector, doesn't call any of that stuff out, because that's really unneeded, to have that worry about light bulbs that are burnt out. Just replace them all. And of course, vacant homes. This is all the time this happens. Vacant homes, no gas. That's the biggie. So if you go into a home, what I would suggest doing, the first thing that you do is go up to that stove and turn it on and see if there's gas. That's going to, and I know you might forget, but it's a good thing to do that, because it's going to be less of a headache on the day of inspection, that for that inspector to be calling you up and say, hey, guess what? There's no water, there's no gas. That one's a huge one for buyers. If there's no gas or no water, they don't want it inspected. They don't want to pay for it. So here we go. We have to reschedule. Okay. And all the pilots are lit. Now, inspectors, we're not supposed to light pilot lights. We can't take an open flame. Do we do it sometimes? Yes, we do, but we don't like to do it because of the liability. So, then again, that all comes with that gas being turned off, because now it's not an issue of just calling the gas company up to tell them to come back and turn the gas on. The gas companies aren't going to go in there and light the pilots either anymore. They're not wanting to have that liability. So now you got to have a licensed plumber there. So by no gas, it's a big headache. So that would be one of the first things I do is, if you know that there's gas and that home is vacant, just go turn the stove on and see if it turns on. Oops. All right, and then remove all pets and owners if possible. Now, the owners, trying to remove them, back, prior to COVID, that was easy to get rid of an owner in the house. Now, everybody's working out of their home. Everybody has the kids there. We're in a different criteria. Yeah, we do like that home empty if all possible, but if they've got to be there, they got to be there. Okay. Now, if you see this, go into home and you see that, then that's, what can be there? That's, if I have to take a picture of that in the report and describe to my client, say, hey, look, there was all this stuff there. There could be hidden damage there that I couldn't see. So even if you walk into a home like that, we know all homes can't be perfect, but if some of that clutter, if it could be pulled up at least away from the wall, to be able to look at the walls and look at the outlets behind there, so that way we don't have to report to the client, I couldn't get to those areas there. There could be some hidden damage. Okay. Also, the attic hatch. If you look at the picture on the left-hand side there, this happens all the time too. You're looking at that and say, hey, well, why can't you, excuse me, why can't you get in there? Well, it's not that we can't get in there, but if we push that attic hatch up, guess what's going to fall down on all those clothing? Fiberglass, debris, rat poop, all that stuff can fall. So if you run in and you see an attic hatch like that, I'd make a recommendation of removing that clothing there, or at least covering up their clothing. You'll see the breaker panel, and these are actually, real pictures of me going in there and finding these items there. Big old weight bench. I think there was like 500 pounds on that weight bench there. I couldn't access that electrical panel. Okay. Dirty clothes, a couple of toys on the floor, stuff like that. It just makes this is what causes the emotions to rise or fall, is this type of stuff here. Because we have to report that. It could not see this side of the wall, could be hidden damage, whatnot. Okay. And there you go. And then there's times when even the seasoned professional to wonder, what were they thinking? So we walk into the garages like this, and this right here, if you look on the left-hand side, there's actually a car in the garage, and that's where the attic was. In the middle of all those cabinets is where the water heater was. The majority of the stuff was inside this garage here, and in most houses, 50% of the inspection is conducted from the garage area. So when you see a garage like that in a disarray, that's going to be a problem too, especially if all of the appliances are in the garage. Right. And of course, when we see things like that this is, again, we talk about the emotions and controlling emotions. What are they hiding? You know, these are all questions that we have to deal with after the fact. And if we could just kind of put all that to the side, then we eliminate what are they hiding questions. They knew they were coming, but they couldn't clean up. Did the sellers even want to sell it? This is going to catch fire, the roof, all these things that go into their heads. We can eliminate that by trying to take care of this stuff here in advance. And what the buyer's really thinking, is this a money pit? I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
That's a great movie.
Yeah, it is pretty funny. But some people, they'll think, hey, this is going to happen to me. Okay. Now to the inspection. Okay. Prepare your buyers for this. We were talking earlier about a home that you're going in there, and 40-year-old home. Okay. Maybe hasn't been renovated. You already know, or if maybe it has been renovated. And what I always tell my agents too is, just if you go into a home and it's been painted and it's nice and pretty, go find the water heater real quick and just open up the closet door to that water heater. You'll be able to tell if this is a home that's a lipstick on a pig, or if they've actually done it from the core inside out. And then you can kind of prepare your buyer. Yeah, the inspector on this one here, he's probably going to pull up some things, on this one here. So you're already preparing them for, a rather maybe lengthy inspection or a long inspection. There are no perfect homes.
Bill.
Uh-huh.
And Marie again. I don't want to interrupt your presentation too much, but is there going to be a point where you talk about new builds, since we're kind of dealing a lot with that?
Yeah. We, I don't know if I have like a specific new build in here, but yes, we can definitely talk about new builds. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because new builds have their own issues too. You would think that you're always going to go into a new build and it's going to be ready. But with new builds, what I tell my clients all the time is that a new build inspection is mainly for peace of mind. Okay. If we're going into a new build thinking that we're going to pull up a whole bunch of issues, why are we buying the house in the first place? Okay. So yes, there are definitely some things that can happen with a new build. Maybe not as many, but things can happen. And I have walked out of new builds with reports that are like a 50-year-old home. So the best thing that you can do with a new build in preparing that house for an inspection is when you talk to the builder, and before you get that inspector out, you ask the builder, is it move-in ready? Okay, because when you ask them if it's move-in ready, that's a whole different concept versus asking them, is it home ready for inspection? Because if you ask a builder, is a home ready for an inspection, the answer is always going to be yes. Regardless if there's no water, no gas, no roof, no that, they're always going to tell you yes, it's always ready for inspection. But if you say, is the home move-in ready? And at that point in time, that throws them a curveball. So that'll definitely help you as far as new builds go. Okay. There's no perfect homes out there. I'm always going to pull I don't know if I've ever had an inspection that there's nothing ever been wrong with it. There's always been something wrong with the home, or at least, something little. Okay. Set the expectations. Clients should attend the inspection or walkthrough, because just reading the report can be alarming. Okay. So you heard me talking about that earlier. Now if you got a seasoned buyer and this is maybe their 8th home that they're buying, they're kind of accustomed to this. But if you've got a first-time buyer, or even maybe like a second-time buyer, I think that they should attend the inspection, at least for the key findings at the end, because I can kind of take them by the hand and go explain some things, and I can downplay some of the issues that I'm actually pointing out, or raise concern if needed on some of the issues that I'm actually putting out. And by them not there, they don't understand the emphasis, whether it's little or a lot. because with the report, reports can be deceiving unless, I have an opportunity to talk to them first. Okay. So have your clients visit with us. This will help them understand the magnitude and keep their imaginations from running wild. Because, if you tell them that there's an electrical concern, I have some more pictures that we're going to talk to here in a second, but you can see how their imaginations will run wild if they're not there at the inspection, or if they're worriers. Okay. If they're worriers, they got to be there.
Hey,
Okay.
Bill, quick question.
Yes,
This is Victoria.
Yep.
If for some reason the agent nor the client is able to be at the inspection, are you and your team pretty responsive on answering questions?
Most definitely, yes.
Once the inspection has been completed, maybe later on that evening?
Yes. As a matter of fact, we set those expectations up prior to the inspection, because what we'll do is we'll call the client before the inspection and verify if they are going to attend or not. And if they're not going to attend, then we're already setting up a meeting to have, let's say, for instance, my inspection's at 12 o'clock. I'll say, hey, look, I'm going to be done at 2. Will you be available at 2 o'clock today for a phone call, since you're not going to go? And I can go ahead and, yeah, I'll make myself available. Please call me. Or, hey, look, I have meetings all day. I'm not going to be able to talk until 7 o'clock tonight. Can you call me at 7? Then we've already made those arrangements to go ahead and establish a meeting so that we can at least meet. The worst thing that we can do is not talk at all. In most cases, I should say. There's homes that, they're pretty clean and stuff like that. And I think the report is, if you give a good detailed report, a lot of times the buyer's not going to even want to talk to me. But I always feel better if I've had a chance to talk to the buyer all the time.
Thank you.
Okay.
So Bill, this is Anderson.
Yep.
So if in your example, if the buyers and the agent cannot participate and be present, do you set the expectation of, hey, I'm going to call you, or do you want the agent or the buyers to actually initiate that conversation?
No, we should do that, because you guys are busy. Okay. You're out showing, you're doing this and stuff like that. And you're handing the ball off to me to handle, to take care of your client. So if you can't attend it, I'd rather have you guys out there showing and making more business. Okay. And having the trust in me to where, hey, if they're going to be with me and we're going to have a one-on-one, we're going to, it's going to be a very good inspection, and, they're going to trust me. So it's, like I said, it's always going to be better there. But if we can't meet in person at the end of the inspection, then the expectation is set up by me in the very beginning, either the night before or that morning. I already know if they're going to attend the inspection or not. And I already know at that point in time what time we will meet and what time we will discuss. Because sometimes it is before the inspection, sometimes it's before I write the report, and sometimes they want to review the report and then discuss it afterwards. And that's okay too, just as long as that meeting transpires.
Okay. And for our side, in order to prepare our buyers, how long would you ask us to ask them to allow in their busy schedules? Maybe they're juggling work and then inspection talk. How long would you say that typically takes?
Half an hour.
Okay.
So like, say for instance, I'm starting the inspection at 12 and I'm going to be done at 2. I usually recommend them to show up at about 1:45 and, about 15 minutes, prior to me finishing, and then I'll be done with them about 15-20 after. So I usually, require them there about 30-35 minutes. And like I said, if they can't make it, they can't make it. That's okay. I'm going to find a way to talk to them, because I don't want them reading this report and then me not knowing, hey, were they worried about this or what happened here? I want to at least hear that they were comfortable, and I want to know all of their concerns, especially if it came down to me not doing something, or maybe they needed clarification on something. It's very, very important for me to know that. So that way, when I hand them back off to you, they're very well educated. They know all about that house, and they're comfortable, and they're ready to go. They're ready to move forward. I don't want them coming back to you saying, hey, that inspector, he didn't look at this, or he rushed it, or he did. That's the last thing I want to hear. Want them to report back to you. I want them to, report back to you, hey, inspector took time. He covered all of my concerns. He walked me through the house. He described everything. We're very happy. But like I said, that's in a perfect world. That can't always happen all the time. But at least if it can't happen, we do set that expectation prior to the inspection when we call the client and introduce ourselves, that we will set up a meeting to discuss the report, whether it's all clean or whether there's a lot of issues.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So the difference between reading something and actually seeing it can make a world of difference. Well, so here we're describing double tap breakers. So you can see the picture on the left-hand side there. You got 2 wires going into that deal there. So if they're there and I say, hey, look, what we need here is we need to have another circuit breaker installed on the bottom because we can't have the 2 wires coming in that are sharing that circuit breaker. So they see that picture. I'm able to explain it to them. That gives them a clean perspective of what needs to happen versus double taps. You look at the picture on the right, that's what they're seeing. And if I can't clarify that, hey, wait a minute, no, double tap, yes, it is a serious situation, but it's an easy fix. And this is what they're envisioning in their head. I just blew your deal by telling them that they have double tap breakers. So that's why it's important for me to be able to show them that picture in person, or at least have a discussion with them about double tap breakers, because this does come through as a red action item. This can freak some people out. But if I'm there describing it to them and talking to them about it, then they will understand the significance of having this repaired, but they will also know that even if they didn't have it repaired for whatever, a few months, the house is not going to burn out. Okay. So prepare the buyers for after the inspection, help them understand the process. The inspector will put together a report that you, the realtor, can review with them. A lot of times they do feel comfortable after I submit the report, and I know you guys do that anyway. You'll go over with them line by line by line on the stuff that really bothers them, or maybe it's just maintenance. Okay. Remind them that I'm basically there just to give them facts. I'm very nonchalant whenever it comes down to describing a home and stuff like that. I try not to get too emotionally attached to it, because I just I want them to feel comfortable, and I don't want them to feel a bias between me and the agent, thinking that I might be trying to help the agent out. Okay, so that's why I have to be very upfront with them and stuff like that. Okay. Expectations. This is what you should expect from every inspector out there. From me, you're going to get all this. But if you have your favorite inspector that you're doing, well, these are just things that should come along with it. An inspector has a job of educating their clients and help them understand the magnitude of any deficiencies. So when we're describing maintenance, when we're describing HVAC problems, when we're describing foundation issues, we have to be able to give a clear, precise magnitude of whatever the deficiency is. When a buyer becomes nervous, an inspector should educate them about the subject. Okay, so I showed you that picture a little while ago about a double tap breaker. Well, if they weren't with me and they saw that report, then they could be envisioning that other picture. But at least if they're there, I can educate them and just say, hey, describe the importance of it and the outcomes of not having it fixed. A good inspector will monitor the emotions of the client and help them keep an even keel. So we see that emotion start to spike. What can we do to bring that back down again? Okay. And it's not an inspector's job to be a contract assassin. Okay. There are some assassins out there. That's what I call them, because they don't know how to talk to clients, and they scare the buyer back into their apartment. That's the wrong thing. We don't want that. Okay. There we are, all smiles, full of excitement. And then all of a sudden you describe them something different. So if we start seeing that level of concern of that picture on the right-hand side there, because we're talking about window caulking, we're doing something wrong. Okay. They shouldn't only have that look there if we got mold, or if we've got a foundation problem, or, something like that, then, then they can start looking like that. But for the most part, the inspection should be pretty upbeat. So the buyers, getting them ready, have them plan to attend inspection and walkthrough. I've had some of my agents before. I'll call my client up. They said, "Are you going to the inspection?" And they'll say, "Nah, I've got to work." I'm like, "Okay." So I hang up the phone, and then my agent's calling me and, "Hey, is my client going to show up?" And I said, "No, he's got to work." Next thing I know, the client's calling me up. So, no, my agent says I have to be there. I'm going, so I'll be there. So a lot of agents, like they demand their clients to be there because they don't want to have that problem after of when they're not there. And remember something too, is when problems arise with an inspector, it's usually because they weren't there. That even with me, you can do a super job, but if they weren't there, and you're not there really to describe them, what you found or add emphasis or no emphasis, that's whenever problems arise. I've had probably little to no problems whenever my clients are there. It's whenever they're not there that whenever we have all these questions. Remind them that they are not on television. They are not chipping Joanna Gaines, and that repair estimates should come from the professionals. Okay. The inspector is not homes on homes. That's the worst thing. That's an inspector nightmare whenever people research of what an inspector should do and they just watched homes on homes, that guy with a sledgehammer and he's tearing down the walls. And that's not what we do. The inspector should have caught that. So we have that kind of misleads them a little bit. All houses have deficiencies, even new construction. Okay, so a lot of times people, it's a brand new house. We don't need it, huh? You do need it. Okay. And then, of course, above all, read the report. A large amount of claims stem from clients not reading the inspection report and failing to follow through on the inspector's recommendations. That happens so much. I get a call 6 months later, and they're concerned about a water leak, and then we go to the report, and it was on the report. But they, for whatever reason, I don't know, they just didn't forget, they forgot or whatever, but that happens a lot too. And that's why I love to deal with clients in person. Because I don't even know there's some clients I don't speak to. All I do is I know that there's an order and I do the inspection and I submit the report and I try to call them and I don't hear from them. I don't know what happened there. Those are scary because I don't know exactly what happened. Dealing with the report, remind your client that the home inspection is about attaining knowledge of the home and identifying significant deficiencies. Okay, remind them that every home has defects or areas of improvement, especially your older homes. And sellers typically will almost always fix something major. AC issues, water heater issues, stuff like that. They're probably not going to fix caulking on the windows. They're probably not going to upgrade the house for them. If they have single pane aluminum windows, that's one of the call outs that we have. The windows were in generally poor condition, consider upgrading. The seller's not going to buy them $15,000 worth of windows. They have to understand that windows are an investment. Okay. So you guys probably have your response here already as far as preparing the response to the sellers. This is kind of a little bit of what our reports look like when you get them. You're going to get a little bit of a breakdown, and you'll see some red X's there, and then you're going to see some blue arrows. And so what that does is describes the report, the emphasis. The red action items are the most important items that we point out, and then the blue is just kind of commentary or code, maybe not as serious. And then, like I said, then there might be some issues in the body of the report, but we don't put them on the key findings. Okay, but this is a good way for you to go over it with your client, pulling out the key findings report and finding out what bothers them, and then maybe putting some sort of numerical value right there, so that way they can understand. So you just basically, you're going to highlight the importance, and then the really important, you'll just kind of weed this down, funnel it down until you get to a point to where the things, by the time you get there, the things that are circled, those are the really important items that you're going to probably put on your amendment and try to go for. Yep. And here I'm not going to educate you guys. You guys are pretty good on that. So a good home inspector is a walking bank of accurate knowledge. Use them to talk to your clients if they get cold feet. I don't know how many times my agent calls me up and says, "Hey, Bill, the report was good. They're a little bit nervous about this specific area of the home right there, and I know that it's not really important. Can you call them and talk to them about this?" And I don't know how many deals I've saved by doing that. So if I hear that, involve me. Don't feel that you have to, address this alone or whatnot. I'm very good at talking to clients. I'm very good at describing issues and not adding emphasis where it doesn't need to be added. Okay. We could keep things in perspective. Okay. We'll help them deal with their emotions. It's an emotional roller coaster. You see it. Sometimes you're talking to your client, you just got to sit there and roll your eyes back. You're just like, this guy. Let me call my inspector and let them know what he's up against, what he's dealing with. We appreciate those phone calls. We really do. So that way we can make adjustments in our approach as far as how we're going to deal with a specific client. And we're just there to help them. Okay. Selecting the right inspector. Okay. The home inspector's experience and training matters whenever when you do that. It's not a matter of what's on the resume, or it's basically what it comes down to is communication skills. You can have a rookie inspector, and he could be maybe the most awesomest guy that you've ever met because he's very, very good with clients. Sometimes, sometimes that's a good thing, However, there are some inspectors out there that get a little bit pen heavy, and they write those 70-page massive looking reports calling out every little critical thing because they're so worried about a claim. Those are the ones that you kind of want to be, careful with, because those are the ones that are going to blow your deal. You can get a little bit too descriptive. You can get a little bit too involved, and then that report can get away from you. It's as far as what you're trying to describe to your client. So make sure, of course, we communicate excellent, conduct an interview on the phone with them. Let's say, for instance, your buyer had their own inspector. It wouldn't be a bad idea for you to call them up and introduce yourself and, kind of hear how they talk and hear how they talk back to you. And then that way you can kind of size it up a little bit, saying, "Oh man, I'm going to have issues here," or "No, this one here should be pretty good." They're very responsive to your client's needs. They call you, in other words, they call back. If they have a question over the inspection, they're not just getting sent to voicemail, even though sometimes that has to happen. But we call them back immediately or soon after. That we're available with extended hours, nights, weekends. Not everybody can do their inspection at 8 o'clock in the morning or 12 in those nice hours. Sometimes we have to do one in late evening, or we have to be available for a Sunday. Okay. It's, how far are they willing to go for you? Have an easy process for scheduling inspections. We have 3 ways. We online, you can call me directly, or you can call my call center. And the call center is nice because if you need a report, and let's say, for instance, I'm on vacation that day, or you need some sort of specific question answered about a billing thing, you've got that 1-800 number to call in the event that the inspector's not there. So that makes it very handy. Have adequate amount of liability and E&O insurance, not just the bare minimum. We in the event of a claim, we cover our agents as well. You don't have to break out your E&O insurance if there's a claim or a suit, and we're both involved. Hey, we're in this together, but we'll cover you. Okay, bilingual is a plus. Okay, I speak Spanish. I've got another guy that speaks Spanish, so we got 2 guys. Okay. Celebrate, always keep it positive. Okay. And here we are, we're at the end. So any questions, any stories that you want to share with me?
Hi, Bill.
Yep.
I had a question in the chat. How much, I know you talked about reinspection. How much is with you guys compared to the actual inspection?
Sometimes those are negotiable. Officially, a reinspection is officially it's $135. However, Okay. I do know that there are times that if there's a reinspection, it's not the buyer's fault that this happened. Okay. So I don't feel right about charging the buyer fees that, really, I don't, unless that, there's some specifics or something like that. Let's say, for instance, I did a home inspection and there was a lot of things wrong with it. And then the seller fixed everything, but he wants to have all of these items double checked. Then at that case there, if they want me to go back, then I will. But let's say, for instance, I get to home and something wasn't there, or something, the attic access was blocked and the owner couldn't move it until tomorrow. I'll usually go out there at no charge and just get it done, as far as that goes. So re-inspects are a little bit negotiable as far as that goes. I try not to charge them for a re-inspect, and as long as we're confirming that the attic accesses are open and utilities are turned on, we don't have to discuss re-inspects.
Okay.
Usually that'll be eliminated.
Okay. And then how much is your normal inspection?
That they start at $295 for anything that's under 1,000 square foot, and then anything we derive our fees based on square footage.
Okay.
So just to kind of give you an average, I guess maybe from 2,000 to 2,499, about $415.
Okay.
Okay. 1,500 to 2,000, $385. When you start getting into your bigger money, it's like anything. When we start getting into the $1,000 range, it's 6,000 square foot or plus.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that include termite inspection as well?
Yeah. Now the termite, I am licensed to do termites. Everybody gets a visual termite inspection. Everybody. Now, if you need the written documentation, that since I have to utilize another license for that, my home inspector license doesn't allot me to call out a termite. I have to use the state license. So if you need the actual WDO, I have to charge $105 for that. So what I tell everybody that is that they're going to get a visual. Okay. But if let's say, for instance, there's activity, the only thing that I could put in the home inspection report is make a suggestion that you buy a WDO, so that way I could tell you that it has termites. Verbally, I could tell you all day long, but on paper, we'll need that WDO. So.
What about septic?
Septic, I do septic as well. Most of my guys do septics. Septics are $225.
Okay.
Now, septics, if you do have a septic, the first question out of your mouth to the seller is, when was it pumped last? Okay, because if it was just recently pumped, then we probably don't need to do it again. But if it hasn't been pumped in years, or we don't have documentation, then we're definitely going to want that pumped at the time of inspection or shortly after. So I tell them, contact me about that, because a lot of times I just defer those back to the septic company. If it needs to be pumped and you're under an option crunch, there's no reason to involve the inspector in that. Just deal with the septic company directly, if that's what the case is. But like I said, I'll educate you and coach you on that. Once I get that repair order and I see that there's a septic on it, I'm calling you immediately to talk to you about, to make sure that I don't burn up 4 of your option days to tell you, hey, get a septic company out there to do it. I can't do it. Okay. So we'll be having that discussion, so that way we'll find out about any obstacles on the day of, not 4 or 5 days later.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We're good. Did I do a good job? This is my first one. Like I said, it was a little rough, but hopefully I gave you some
You did great.
Like I said, I'm used to doing these in person, and I have my little ways, but today was just a little bit differently, but it wasn't too bad. So.
No, you did great. Thank you.
No problem at all. And yeah, the next one, if we get this next one, I'm going to see if they'll allow me to give you guys a credit hour or two. We have other classes too. We have this one. I have mountain or molehill, where I'll give you a whole bunch of pictures of deficiencies, and we'll talk about, is that a mountain to climb or is that just a molehill? So I can give you a credit hour on that one. And then we also have another one on home warranties. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. Well, you all have a good day, and it's getting busy. So hopefully we'll start getting some inventory here, and things will get even a little bit smoother.
Great. Thank you.
All righty. Okay. Take care. Y'all have a good day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bill, Adrian had to jump off, but we wanted to thank you for coming and doing this for us.
Oh, no problem at all. No problem.
Have a good day.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.